Months after Hurricane Melissa devastated Jamaica, a growing controversy continues to surround the handling of disaster relief funds intended to help survivors rebuild their lives. While the hurricane left entire communities damaged and thousands of citizens displaced, audit findings revealed that the overwhelming majority of donated relief money remained unused long after the disaster struck. For many Jamaicans still living under damaged roofs, in temporary shelters, or with relatives, the issue is no longer just about bureaucracy. It has become a symbol of frustration, inequality, and delayed recovery. The controversy is now attracting wider international attention as questions emerge about disaster governance, humanitarian response, and whether vulnerable populations are being failed during a time of urgent need. Massive donations, minimal spending. Following Hurricane Melissa, Jamaica received an outpouring of support from international donors, Caribbean allies, private companies, diaspora communities, humanitarian organizations, local citizens. According to reports presented to Parliament, approximately $144 billion in donations was collected to assist recovery efforts. Yet by February 2026, only about $26 million had reportedly been spent. That meant nearly 98% of the disaster funds remained unused, while many affected citizens were still struggling to survive. The findings shocked many Jamaicans because the disaster had already caused severe housing destruction, community displacement, loss of livelihoods, agricultural collapse in some areas, major infrastructure damage, thousands still living in crisis. In several affected communities, residents reportedly continued facing leaking roofs, flood-damaged homes, unsafe structures, lack of electricity, limited clean water, financial hardship. Some families remained dependent on relatives, churches, community donations, temporary shelters. Others reportedly slept in partially destroyed houses because they had nowhere else to go. For many survivors, the slow pace of recovery became emotionally and financially devastating. The disaster did not end when the storm passed. For thousands, the crisis continued for months afterward, public anger growing. The revelation that hundreds of millions, and possibly billions, remained untouched while vulnerable citizens suffered triggered widespread criticism. Many questioned why emergency funds were not released faster, why rebuilding assistance was delayed, whether government systems are too slow during national emergencies, whether disaster victims were being forgotten. Critics argued that disaster donations are intended for immediate humanitarian response, especially in the critical weeks and months following a catastrophe. Some observers warned that delays can worsen poverty, homelessness, mental stress, migration pressures, public distrust. Government explanation. Government agencies reportedly stated that funds could not simply be distributed immediately without ministry approvals, financial oversight, procurement procedures, accountability mechanisms. Officials defended the need for proper auditing and transparency, arguing that emergency spending must still follow legal and financial regulations. Authorities also pointed to housing assistance efforts and reconstruction programs already underway. However, critics argue that while administrative systems moved slowly, ordinary citizens were living through daily hardship without urgent relief. International concerns about disaster response. The situation has sparked concern beyond Jamaica because it highlights a growing global problem. When disaster aid arrives, slowly around the world, climate disasters are becoming more frequent, more expensive, more destructive. Yet in many developing countries, relief systems often struggle with bureaucratic delays, limited infrastructure, funding bottlenecks, political disputes, weak emergency coordination. Humanitarian experts warn that delayed aid can deepen suffering long after media attention disappears. Climate change makes the situation more serious. Small island nations like Jamaica are among the most vulnerable regions on Earth to climate disasters. Stronger hurricanes, rising sea temperatures, and changing weather patterns are increasing the risk of mass displacement, coastal destruction, food insecurity, economic instability. For countries with limited resources, every delayed recovery effort creates long-term national consequences. When citizens remain homeless months after a disaster while relief money sits unused, it raises difficult questions about preparedness and governance in the era of climate change. Trust and accountability. Disaster funding depends heavily on public trust. International donors and citizens expect transparency, speed, efficiency. Visible recovery efforts. If large sums remain unused while survivors continue suffering, future donor confidence may weaken. This matters globally because many countries increasingly rely on climate financing, international aid, emergency humanitarian support, disaster recovery partnerships. How governments manage crisis funds can affect future relationships with foreign governments, development banks, relief agencies, investors. Human cost behind the numbers. Beyond the financial controversy are the lives of ordinary people. For families affected by Hurricane Melissa, the issue is not just accounting percentages or political debate. It is about parents trying to rebuild homes, children living in unstable conditions, elderly residents without safe shelter, communities struggling to recover, citizens waiting for promised assistance. While billions were collected in the name of relief, many survivors reportedly continued facing uncertainty months later. That human reality has become the center of the national conversation. Conclusion. The Hurricane Melissa relief controversy has become more than a debate about government procedures. It now represents a wider global issue about how nations respond to disaster, protect vulnerable citizens, and manage emergency aid during a worsening climate era. The central question being asked both inside and outside Jamaica is simple. How can so much relief money remain unused while disaster victims are still homeless? As climate disasters continue increasing worldwide, the answer to that question may shape public trust in disaster recovery systems for years to come.